Morning everyone, straight back onto the Jag, picking up from where we left off. So we've marked, you'll remember, we've marked a few of the areas which need some filler work and some body work. We're still waiting on the catches. It's only just a few days after the previous video, so we're still waiting on the catches to fully line up the doors and gap of the bonnet, all that side of things, but we can make a start, plenty to get on with. So as you know, we go straight on the top of our epoxy with the filler work, never do any filler work on top of bare metal, but because it has been coming up to 7 days or over 7 days, I'm not sure, but regardless, we've got a 7-day window where we can just put the filler straight on top of this without scuffing, but I think it's borderline, so we're just going to give it a quick scuff up just with a red Scotch pad. It doesn't need much. Give it a quick scuff and then we can start applying some filler and start gapping this up a bit better.
Just like we're ready.
Okay, that's the rough fill done on this one then already. So on the areas where we know there's issues, I've not done the doors yet because that needs a bit more gapping work. We need some shims to shim that door back a little bit, I think, space it out a little bit at the front, and then I'll adjust that gap there next. And then the entire door needs a skim on both sides, and then obviously the transition into the quarter and the front wing as well. So a bit more work on both doors, but I've done the rough fill on all of the other areas that we can see. I think I've said previous. So basically what we're aiming to do at this stage is get the majority of things sanded out, the larger areas like this, and then it will later down the line go into poly, and that's basically going to be 3 coats of sprayable filler over the whole car. We'll block that all down in one go then, and then if we find anything else at that stage, that's when we can take care of the whole lot. That's going to be the easier way of doing things. I don't want to start sanding this down. The easiest way to find dents in this now would be to block it down, but I don't want to block this down because it removes some of the epoxy that we've just put on there, so we want to keep as much epoxy on there as possible for the corrosion resistance. So it just makes sense to me to block this down first, then go into the poly and block the poly down. It'll just keep the epoxy on there, giving it corrosion resistance. So that's the way that we're going. Okay, we're going to have a bit of a play around with this door today. So, problem is with this one, it seems to go very, very narrow down there, but actually it lines up okay here. What I want to do is actually move the door, tilt it that way at the front, but then the opposite on the back, which I obviously can't do. So we're going to have a bit of a mess around with some shims on the front end, see what we can get to, and then I've obviously got to tidy up that edge. That gap there is the worst one, but the body lines work. So yeah. Fiddle around, see what we can do, go from there.
Just like we're ready.
Alright, so that's most of the bodywork on this side of the Jag done actually. As we said previously then, so we've done the highlighted areas that we picked out on before, so we've spot filled those dents. Obviously with the door we have done the transition between the two, door into the quarter, and obviously the gaps as well, quite substantially different now. It's difficult to tell again at this stage, but hopefully you can see it is now absolutely dead straight and flush as far as I'm concerned. We spend a lot of time on trying to get the transition between, you know, the panels absolutely as good as we possibly can, because I think that alongside the gaps themselves just really make a massive difference on a job. You know, especially a long old vehicle like this, you look at it down the side and if it's absolutely dead straight down the side, it's just going to look really good. Yeah, just briefly addressing something that I said previously as well in terms of sanding off the epoxy and wanting to keep the epoxy on there as much as possible. What I meant by that is areas like the roof, when there's no need to take, you know, we don't need to start taking any of that off. It's inevitable that we start going through to bare metal on areas like this when we're actually repairing dents, you know, and then again, some of the sanded section will come out to there. That in itself is not an issue, because actually the next stage for this one now is going to be an isolator epoxy. So we'll isolate these areas. The areas that we've done bodywork to will be going back into another layer of basically a wet on wet epoxy before the next stage, which is going to be the spray poly, which is the sprayable filler. So they will have their corrosion resistance reinstated essentially in the areas that we've sanded before the next stage of poly. So yeah, just wanted to clear that up. Yeah, other than that, going really well. Guys, thought I'd better just fill you in on what we've been doing for the whole week then really. So the BMW is coming along quite nice. We've pulled this one back out, got a bit more work done on this one. You can see it's looking a lot straighter than it was. It's going to need a couple more skims still. Excuse the mess guys, it's a weekend, I haven't quite got around to tidying up just yet. But yeah, Jag is pretty much the same as you last saw it. I think I've done a little bit more work on the bonnet and everything, and the last remaining bits over the other side. But yeah, this one is pretty much now ready for the next stage. So looking forward to doing that. Like I said, BMW has had a sand over the entire car pretty much. So we are just reskimming the boot in the areas that needs it. Going to need to reskim the sides, like I said. There's a couple of deep fill areas, but for the most part, it's coming along. Yeah, I think I mentioned that I've done the gaps on the doors on this one before. So yeah, we've got 1, 2, and 3 shells, all nearing their next stages actually. So there's various different things that all of them are waiting for. Yeah, pushing along with all of them really. So I think, to be fair, we're probably going to get to a stage where they're all progressing to the next stage kind of at the same time as well. But yeah, regardless, pushing along. Okay guys, as always, I hope you're having a good weekend, and I will catch you next time.